All right. Well, then we're going to get started, and there'll be a couple people coming in a little bit later. First of all, I want to thank everyone that has joined us today. We truly appreciate this. We know your time is valuable, so our goal is to give you a lot of good information today. I will be covering a few topics that I covered in the last customer update because there's some folks that were not on that I felt that was important. And then also we're going to be covering some things that I think that are pretty pertinent to all the companies that we work with on a daily basis. And then we're going to flip it on over, and Julie is going to go through the actual live presentation of some of the new features that we've done. So the first thing that I want to do is thank all of you for attending today, and most importantly, thank you for your business, because without your business, we wouldn't have food in our bellies and roofs over our heads. And we appreciate each and every one of our customers. So thank you so much for your business. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. I am going to let everyone know we're going to record this. We're going to attempt to record this. Sometimes the WebEx recording slows things down. If the WebEx recording is successful, then we'll send it out to everyone, but if I notice that it's slowing down the slides or slowing down Julie's portion of the demonstration, I'll turn it off. So because it's being recorded, just make sure if there's any questions that you have that are private, that you ask us offline. Anything else will be recorded and for the general community to listen to. So first of all, there's a couple of clients that are attending today that have never attended a customer update. So we want to talk about the agenda and the purpose of these updates. We really go through a great length preparing for these updates, and the real goal of this is, number one, we want to demonstrate any features that have been added to the product that may benefit you. Years ago, before we did these customer updates, we had clients that were building out apps on their own or having resellers add features that we already had in our product. So that is a really important reason to attend these customer updates. We try not to bombard you with emails and marketing things throughout the year, but when we have these customer updates, we just really appreciate that you attend. We'll talk about the development because this is pretty important. I want to kind of explain how new features come into the product. Number one, obviously, there's paid software development. So with every new customer or existing customer that's doing something new, if there's something that's not in the product that they end up paying for, but we feel it could benefit our end user community, we will roll it into our standard product. And so that way it's a win-win. It's a win-win for the customer because you don't have to pay to migrate it up every time there's an upgrade. And then, of course, it's a win-win for the whole end user community because it might be a feature that someone else can leverage. The other things that we do is we look at all of the feature requests from our customers, and Julie is the biggest customer advocate, so she keeps a listing of these features, and if we notice like a lot of customers requesting the same feature at the same time, we are very, very generous in investing ourselves back into the product. So if we're opening up the code to do an update and add features, a lot of times we will add features that come just from your maintenance renewal and that investment. And we've been putting more and more features in the last year and a half, so it's pretty excited. The other features, unfortunately, are kind of forced upon all of us. They're forced upon you, and they're forced upon us. As you know, we tie into USPS and Indicia, Stamps.com, UPS, FedEx, DHL, and all those different carriers, FedEx, they have new services. They have new laws that they have to follow. An example right now would be there's new EU custom rules for international shipping. So, these are things that we have to put into our product to be compliant and to make sure that you all compliant. So what we're going to do today is point out some just kind of supply chain things that might open up your mind and give you some ideas internally. And then we're going to turn it over to Julie, who's going to roll through the new features. And then we're going to open up the presentation for Q&A at the end. And again, there's a few late attendees that joined in. We are recording this, so if there's anything that's private, for your company, please take us offline. If it's something that you are not embarrassed to share with all of us, just know you're being recorded. So away we go. So first thing I'm just going to flat out say is we have a new and improved ecosystem. And this is from a hardware standpoint. So I'm trying to say this in the most politically correct way, but you know that I'm not always politically correct. But last year there were some changes at DCSC where I became the president. And I started taking a hard look at a lot of things at our vendors, at our business itself, and started evaluating the good, the bad, the things that needed some adjustments, et cetera. And due to our business models really not aligning, and this is in my opinion, and it really was from a support standpoint, we have decided to partner with two new hardware partners. So I know that we were working with AbeTech for really years and years and years and years. If you have service agreements with them, obviously they're still going to service your hardware and anything that you've worked out with them. We definitely are still keeping tabs and working together in a very, very polite and respectful, professional manner. But I, Kirsten Austin, was a little bit upset on how some of their support, to me, my customers ended up in a black hole. And they basically said their business model was changing, our model's changing too. And so we went through a very tedious process. We actually talked to 10 different companies. We decided to have two hardware resellers so our customers have a choice of people they can talk to. Each has their own little nuances and things that are good about them. But the two hardware partners that we have aligned ourselves with are TRG, based out of Ohio, and Data Gear, based out of California. So again, if this recording works, I'm going to give this recording to everyone, but I'm also going to send this PowerPoint so you have all this information. Again, we appreciate you rolling with the punches with us, but my goal is to make sure that our customers and our DC Warehouse clients get the best support from anyone we recommend them to. So TRG and Data Gear. And Data Gear, it was kind of cute. A newer customer of ours who I really, really love how they run their operations. They just called me out of the blue and they said, I know of a hardware company that's really awesome to work with. And I said, well, we're interviewing people now and we're making them go through quite a process, but, sure, have them, give me a call. And they did a great job. So, again, I'll give you all this information. They understand our requirements. And we've worked really hard with them and are continuing to work with these two companies to make sure that they can support all of our customers in the hardware. We will also be sending a updated hardware requirements listing with some of the Zebra models and some of the printers and scales that have changed. So I'll make sure to get that in the hands of everyone on there. A vendor that we have grown closer to was Banyan. So Banyan is, of course, I think you all know that we directly integrate with FedEx and UPS, but outside of that world for LTL, we have an integration into Banyan technology. Banyan is, they have a new president that joined them, I think, like 2 years ago, Brian Smith. I called them, basically had the same concern, said, stuff is kind of getting dropped in support, and we want to work better with you. And we did a lot of work together. We had about 3 or 4 different meetings and presentations on things that we could do to improve our integration with them, and also to improve our communications with our customers. Banyan is also investing a lot more money into their support and to the development of their product. And so we've seen a lot of great improvements from them. And so we're going to continue recommending them for our TMS system. They have tons of carriers. They also, because they are with a whole bunch of different carriers and bringing a lot of business and have a lot of connections with those, they do offer some lower shipping costs with some of those carriers, which is really cool. And, the other thing is it's not going to go away immediately, but I think it's pretty much public knowledge that Cubic was acquired by Trimble in 2020, and that product is going to be sunsetted. So, we're really excited about some of the new improvements that we made with Banyan from LTL. And after today, if your company wants to take a look at Banyan again, or for the first time, and see how that integration works, Julie and I would be happy to hop on a demo for you. If you have any questions for Banyan themselves, Andrew Larson is now our account executive that works with us in our customers. So another company I want to bring to light is a company called Mindcore. Mindcore is an IT company based out of New Jersey. And they're really kind of a cool company. They're like a boutique, however you say that word, networking and ITIS firm, but they sure do a lot. They deal with cybersecurity, cloud services, and they have taken one of our very wonderful clients, ProTapes, and put them completely in the cloud. And we are currently testing putting RF Gen in the cloud, so everything can be cloud-based. We're not quite there yet, but we're hoping to prove this out probably by early May. So if you want to go to the cloud, you have questions, Mindcore is a really, really good company to work with, and I enjoy my relationship with Matt Rosenthal. So we want to kind of talk about what's going on in the world today, and this is my Kirsten's Corner, where I just give you my opinion, but I want to kind of talk about, we don't really want to talk about the last 2 years, but the last 2 years shed the light a lot of things. And what I'm seeing now is that the world is changing, and that employers need to respect employees more, because obviously people are really hard to come by, especially good people. On the flip side, I think that employees need to look at their employers and understand everything that's going on. So a lot of times people look at this, it's called the iceberg effect, where you see this at the top and you're like, oh, that must be a successful business, and they're just, easy breezy, and it must be, they're just raped in dough and all of that. Well, not just me, but across the board, and trust me, I talk to COOs, company owners every single day. Everything has increased. You would have thought that rents would decrease after COVID. I thought they would. They haven't. Warehousing space, warehouses, corporate facilities, etc. Everyone's rent is bumped up. I don't know why, but it is. So even our own rent bumped up by 22 points. Supplies, everybody knows this. Everyone's charging more for what they have. So even simple office supplies have increased. Business insurance has increased. Benefits, our health insurance, ours alone increased by 27 points for the exact same program, and I don't understand why, because we're a healthy group, but that's pretty much across the board, shipping costs, services, etc. So people need to work together more from a corporate standpoint and an ownership and employment standpoint. I think there is going to be a shift. This thing is driving me nuts. And it's already happening right now. There's going to be a shift where in larger companies are going to start laying off workers because a lot of those big guys, Amazon, Microsoft, forgot all the ones I'm even thinking about, hired and hired and hired during COVID. Well, now things are slowly back to quasi, quote unquote, normal. And so they don't care. They'll just lay off 20% of their workforce. Boom, it's done. So I think that there's going to be more opportunities for small to mid-sized businesses and employees to work better together. In my humble opinion, I think there needs to be more communication. There's something now called silent quitting, and I would only know this if I'm out there on social media and I read everything all the time. Silent quitting is if an employee feels like they're not being listened to, if they're overwhelmed, etc. No one's talking to them, and boom, they're gone. You don't want that. There's also something called silent hiring, which is a good thing. Silent hiring is you have a position open. It's hard to find good people out there. And a lot of times, people can't see the forest through the trees type of thing. But a lot of times your best personnel or fit for that new position is already an employee. So I think that a lot more open communication is going to help. I think that while we still try to get back to quasi-normal, we need to talk to our team. If we can't offer them a higher salary, what about a more flexible work schedule? What about some remote work, more time off? What about cross-training? What about educational, helping you go back to school? Things like this. I think it's going to be a two-way street. Also, making sure that your employees become more engaged with decisions with the company. Also, this is something that we just did after the co-founder passed away. I thought, I want to grow this business, and how are we going to get new people here? Well, obviously we need seasoned people, but we need some young people too, because eventually we got to pass this torch. So I myself went to a couple of job fairs, and pretty exciting. Went to a technical college, Rankin, and they even put me in the automotive section when I'm like, wait, where are the developers and IS people? And despite them putting me in the wrong section, a teacher came out to the table and said, hey, do you want to come talk to my class? And hey, do you want to talk to the other instructors? I did. We hired an intern for a developer, and now he has been offered a full-time job, and he took it for a full-time development position. So that was, getting creative to get people in. We also have another gentleman from Rankin, and I just attended something called Launch Code here. Well, same kind of idea. So if you're looking for people, or you're looking, grow your company, get out there on social media, network, tell everybody you're looking, and you should be good to go. And why did my slide go backwards? Boom. And that's just kind of showing you those big guys are cutting people. So there's going to be people looking for jobs, again, that are quality. Some of this is going to be a little bit of repeat for those that were in our last customer update, but we want to kind of talk about the trends. I wrote a blog on this, and my predictions were correct. The supply chain disruption, it is getting better now. Our ports have opened up. People are finally getting product back in. The world is going to quasi-normal. But if this doesn't tell you that everyone really, really, really needs to take a closer look at their supply chain, their visibility, have good inventory control, this would have done it this last couple of years. Digital transformation is still huge. Customers want to buy from the internet. They want to go to a shopping cart and order products. They want to be able to view inventory. They want to look at their own history, etc. So work on your websites. If you're B2C, continuing, let people know you're out there. Spend money on your SEO. spend money on that user's interface, make it clean, make it easy. If you're B2B, definitely spend money on that B2B secured environment where your customers can help themselves to some answers. More customer service options is going to give you an edge with consumers. So now consumers are pickier and pickier on when they want their product shipped, how they want their product shipped, et cetera. Distributors and manufacturing processes are totally changing. And then again, warehouse space is limited and going up in price. So make the best use of your warehouse space. And I've got kind of a few tips. And I do have folks that have been bombarding me that sell used rack and used warehouse equipment, et cetera. So I'm going to talk to them first before I recommend them to my customers. But if they're any good, I will put that information out to you. Couple things. We talked about the supply chain. We can't look at it now, but I'm going to send you, I found this video, and it was from the Wall Street Journal, and normally they're not my favorite, no offense to anybody that likes the Wall Street Journal, but this video came out that explained every single thing on how products get here from Asia, every single step of the way, and what it takes to not only bring it into the U.S., but to store it, to move it into warehouses, to ultimately get to you, et cetera. So it is a really cool documentary, and it's worth your time. But not right now. We are trying to make a push for our customers to automate way many more of their processes. Anytime you can automate a process and take away from handwriting or entering information in two different systems, that's going to free up your really good employee and team members' time, and you're going to win. So we kind of talked about the website tips. I'm going to fly through that. Again, I'm going to give you all a copy of this PowerPoint, but one of the things that you want to probably take a look at is we have a lot of ways to slice and dice data. And I think it was like 2 years ago, we made some really cool performance inquiries and things like that. So I wrote a little blog that lists all those, and I'll give you that link to look at that. But, a lot of information that, you all call our support team, and ask about, you can actually help yourself to that information. We did have in one of our customer updates where we went through that reporting up and down and all the way around, and we probably will be doing that again in the future. Of course, there's always training here in St. Louis that's included with your renewal, but take a look at those reports and inquiries because we put a lot of time and thought into those. Also, want to talk about the processes of my distributors and manufacturers really changing. So before this whole COVID situation, a lot of our customers were basically palletizing large shipments and just easily shipping those out to someone's DC. Now that whole world is changing, so people are shipping direct to consumer. We can thank Amazon for that. We can thank COVID for that. So there's a lot of throughput. I think I said that word correctly. And so now you're taxing your systems more. So one of the recommendations that we have, and I will put his name into the email that I sent after the follow-up of this webinar, but there's a gentleman by the name of Steve Conti that we have used, and we've used him with our larger customers that are experiencing just some data issues with just a little bit of slowness. And so I totally trust Steve. He actually used to work for Sage 500 and was on the original design team for Sage 500, but he is super, uber good at doing an analysis on, SQL, on your network, on everything, and making suggestions. So that's something I wanted to bring to your attention because a lot of you are shipping a lot more and doing a lot more in your Sage 500 and DC Warehouse system. Make the best use of your space. Like I said, if you have ugly inventory, because before no one could get inventory, but now we're experiencing the opposite, where a lot of you are holding on to inventory that really isn't moving, it's not selling. So we have some ideas for that. I talked about Radwell International. They buy inventory. And I've also been approached by 2 other companies that they just buy product and take it off your hands. So if you've got non-moving inventory that's taking up your precious warehouse space and tying up your cash flow and doing all of that, consider getting rid of it. We never thought we would hear that again, but it's happening. Also, 3PLs, those are becoming bigger and bigger. We do, for those who do not know this, most of you know, but a few of you may not know, but we did develop a really cool 3PL optional module. And it's so super cool because it's a way to just cheaply onboard a 3PL company if you want to work with them. And that's the other thing I was going to tell you. We went over this last time. Again, I'm going to send you this slide. But speaking of 3PLs, there's some really awesome ones out there, and there's some really not so awesome ones out there. So we have some recommendations for questions you can ask them. And one of the things that a lot of our customers that kind of made the wrong 3PL decision wish they would have done, and before they didn't used to offer this, but now most 3PLs that want your business will work with you for a trial period and incorporate that into your contract. So just a note, and I am not a lawyer, so definitely run it by your attorney. But if you are negotiating with a 3PL to work with, definitely see if they'll work with you for a trial period before you go plunging in. Next is training. I know I say this every single customer update, but you know what? No one offers this 2 days of training one-on-one with your company in St. Louis. Get you away from your environment. Multiple instructors go over each little section in DC Warehouse. We talk about your environment, answer questions in a personalized setting. It's very nice here in the spring. I'll even throw in a Cardinals game if you want to check out the Cardinals. But take advantage of that training in St. Louis if you can. And we want to thank our customers that at least come here every other year. We know due to the whole COVID situation was a little bit different the last 2 years, and so we flexed on that because people didn't really want to get on a plane, and I totally understand it. But people are traveling again, and one of the things that I'm really proud about that Julie and Michael and Josh and Ray and our team did is you should see our training room now. It is super cool. We put some investment in it. We cleaned it all up. We've got a new big, huge monitor. It's really super cool. We've made it really fun, and it's definitely worth it. And we are really, really happy to announce that we signed on a new customer, and they were out here for training, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and they were really excited. They said this was the most well-thought-out training we've ever been to. So not to toot our own horn, but all of you, think about it. Think about the training, especially if you have new team members that have never been properly trained on DC Warehouse. So I'm going to kind of flip through this really quick. I've got a really good blog out there on 7 ways to save on shipping costs. And I think any shipping managers or CEOs, COOs should take a look at that blog because it has some ideas. Obviously, fuel prices are going up and down and up and down. Rate shopping is super, super important. Being able to negotiate with your different carriers is super, super important. And I've said this in the last session, and I'll say it again. I can tell you that FedEx Freight right now is very aggressive for their market share. So I don't know if you have talked to your friendly FedEx people. Again, I'm not pushing you in any direction, but that may be worth it. I'm kind of going to go through this really quick. We talked about international shipping. You will get a copy of this, but you want to take a look at all the different countries that we support. Again, don't forget about our integration with, it was Ambrose, and I forgot who they got bought out by, but they actually have a database that checks to make sure you're not sending a no-no to the wrong country that could get you fined or worse. But international shipping is huge. Again, to go over our modules, because we have folks that are still confused as to what they have licensed and what else we offer. The DC Package Manager, almost all of you have that. That is basically allows you to shop for parcels between FedEx, USPS through Indicia, that's now been bought out by Stamps.com. And you can do that at the time of order entry. You can do it at the time of shipping. And it goes ahead, goes out to their site, brings back that tracking number, prints out all the appropriate shipping paperwork, and you're done. Then we also have our T-Force, which was formerly UPS LTL Freight. That's an option. We directly work with them, so we don't charge for each transaction. Pretty straightforward little integration with those guys. We have a direct integration with FedEx LTL. We have a direct integration with Purelator. We do work with a Cubiscan. And I can never say this word, capacity dimensioner. That is included in our standard products. So if that's something that you're looking at, we definitely can show you how to hook that up and where that works. We also have an optional Avalara integration. So Avalara is that fun sales tax solution. And at one point, hardly any of our customers even collected sales tax because they're manufacturers and distributors. But I guess all the states really want some money now. Because there's not one of you who probably doesn't have to collect sales tax somehow, some way. So if you want to integrate that with our order entry all the way through shipping, we do have a direct Avalara integration. We talked about the 3PL module. We talked about E2 Open, that's the name that bought Amber Road. That is included in our software. It's just a service in a database which kind of checks products prior to shipping them. Our credit card, if you're using an outside credit card software and you're not happy with it, our credit card is a proven product, and we never thought we'd get into the credit card business, but because it's all adopted into our sales order entry and all the way through shipping, we've done so many neat things. We've done installment payments, mask, outside storage coding, all sorts of stuff. So if you're, unhappy with the current credit card situation that you have, we'd be happy to demonstrate it. And then, of course, our EDI integrations are included in the product as well. So today we're going to go over 4.7 and 4.8. You can see on the screen some of the notable features that we've added. I really got excited about this one, our RF Move Materials tolerance. That is just super, super cool. And then there's a whole bunch of little user-friendly things that we've done to just make your experience a little bit more friendlier as you're using a product. And then we've definitely put some more features into our 3PLPs. So I thank you all for this. One last final little bit of housekeeping. So I am so sorry. Most of you have upgraded, and we thank you so much. And trust me, as a business owner, I hate to upgrade. We had to upgrade a whole bunch of stuff. I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, our whole email system and then some other stuff. And we were told, oh, everything's going to be fine. And no, it was just crazy, but we had to do it. So it's very, very important to upgrade. But we are retiring 7.8. So there's a couple of reasons for this decision. Number one, Sage is no longer supporting the versions that are tied in with that. Number two, there are just so many new requirements from our various shipping carriers that there's just no way that it makes sense to keep doing this in 4 different versions. So now, don't get scared when we say retired. Does it mean it's going to stop working in your environment? No. Obviously, the software is licensed. We will continue to support you and try to help you the best we can. But the bottom line is it's closed up. There's not going to be any new fixes or features. So if you haven't upgraded yet, please give us a call. We'll put together a quote for you. It's really worth it to upgrade. All sorts of benefits with the new features, the new the equipment that it works with. We just put a lot of thought into it. It's faster. You can get on the more recent versions of Sage and SQL, and there's just tons of reasons to upgrade. And we understand it's a hassle sometimes, but after you do it, you'll wish you would have done it before. So we are on queue. We've already tested the majority of our latest release, and so that's ready to go. If you want to go to Sage's latest release, we're ready to roll with you. And I am going to now turn it over to Julie, who's going to go over the features.
Okay, great.
And then
Thank
also
you.
for the audience, if you look at real quick house cleaning thing, on WebEx at the very top, there's something that says view. There's a way to go view full screen and to see this as if this was on your screen. So just in case someone didn't know about that.
Okay, thank you, Kirsten. And I want to thank all of you for joining today. As Kirsten mentioned, the goal for today is to go over the two latest versions, the 47 and 48. As she just mentioned, the 48 will be the last version for the 7.8 version of the DC Warehouse and Sage. For 7.9, 8.0, and then I think it's the 8.2, we'll be continuing on with everything. But what you see as far as the 47 and 48, those will be the two last ones for the 7.8. And as Kirsten mentioned, we won't, we'll still support you, but as far as fixes or new features, those will be moving in to the 7.9, 8.0, and 8.2. So we're going to go through these two versions today, the 47 and 48, and I've picked out quite a few of the new features in there to give you an idea of what they can do. There also were quite a few different fixes, which I'll point out at the end. But we're going to hit on the different areas. These two versions actually hit, sometimes we focus more on sales order, or sometimes we focus more on PO receiving our inventory. These two versions had a little bit of something in every single section. So we're going to touch on the ones that hit the sales order. We'll go to the PO. We'll talk about the inventory and the manufacturing. And then I'll talk about a little bit what we've done with the fixes, some of the new things I do want to mention for each of these versions. And then, as Kirsten mentioned, we will open it up at the end if you have any questions. So talking about sales order, pick, pack, ship, a couple things were added in this area. The first one is something that we actually called our merge pick list. So what merge pick list would be is we all know how allocation works in Sage. Basically, when creating a pick list, if you were the first person to create a pick list, it's a first come, first serve. So whoever gets there first gets the inventory. Some of our customers are going through and, just to do the allocation in Sage, they go through, and let's say that you have customers that you want to go ahead and allocate the inventory for as soon as the order comes in. So they'll create a pick list, and they'll store up all the pick lists for, let's say, a certain customer all week long, and then they all get picked at the end. Well, when you're picking through wave picking, now that you have all these different pick lists, you can't really do a true wave because each pick list will pick and summarize its items. But if you wanted to summarize all of those pick lists together and say, I need a total of 20 for this item, a total of 30 for this item, and so on, you wouldn't be able to do that without canceling all of the pick lists and then recreating them. So we actually created something called merge pick lists. So to give you an example of how this would work, I went ahead and I created 3 different sales orders in my system. And I'm going to go ahead and create 3 pick lists for these. And then what I will do is then take those 3 pick lists and actually merge them together to be one pick list. So I'm going to come here into our Create Pick List screen, actually just go ahead and grab my different orders, just so you can see that each one of these will have its own pick list number. So let me just make a note of these. And we'll go ahead and process that one. Select the next one. Bring that through. And then we'll grab our last one. So now I have my 3 pick lists. So 779, 780, and 781. Okay, so with that being said, let's say that I've stored these up all week. Instead of 3, I may have 50 pick lists, I may have 20 pick lists, whatever it may be. I'm going to go into what I call my merge pick list. At this point, I can come in here and select. I can go by pick list number. I can look at everything for a given customer. I can merge pick list by customer PO, sales order, any of these various options. So in this specific case, I'm going to do it for a given customer and a given date. So let's say I'm just looking for everything that is for this date and everything that was created today, just so I don't have all of my old pick lists coming through. Okay, so at this point, I hit that. It sees the 3 pick lists that are out there, the 779, 780, and 781. And then I click Merge. And it basically took all 3 pick lists, all of the items on those pick lists, removed them from the old one, and put them on a new one. So now when I go to do my wave picking, I am able to truly pick a summary of the items. So everything that was on those 3 can now be picked onto one pick list, and I can truly do wave picking. So that is one of the new features. That was a pretty big thing to be able to go ahead and just merge all of those pick lists together. And you'd be able to see the new pick list in the Pick List Explorer. If you need to reprint the pick list to get the new pick list information, you definitely have all of that capability. A few other things that are on the sales order side. Some of these are small, but they are big improvements as far as ensuring users are not making mistakes, ensuring users aren't accidentally. This next one, for example, RF shipment. So when I'm thinking of the RF shipment screen, you go through and let's say you pick something and now you're going to go ahead and create the shipment on it after the fact. Let's say you were waiting on 2 different pick lists and you want to combine them together. Well, what sometimes would happen is pickers would come out here to directed picking.
Units.
They'd go to shipments. And in here you have a ship by. One thing that we did, for those of you on older versions, you have all at the top of your screen. So let's say a user just came in really quick and kept hitting enter through the screen. Well, they can go ahead and create shipments for all of your pick lists that are in process and everything that you've gone through and just picked so far, unless you have other options turned on to say, it has to be complete. We basically took, some users still wanted to keep the all function, but we went ahead and moved the all option that you see at the bottom now to the bottom. So before that was the top option, it is now down here, that if you are truly wanting to go ahead and create shipments for everything that you've ever picked or that are sitting out there in picks, you have to at least go to the bottom of the screen to be able to do that, to ensure users are not making those simple mistakes and just choosing everything. So that is the next option. Another kind of cleanup that we've done in the system is related to non-inventory items. So for non-inventory items, when I'm talking about that, is most of you know that when you come into a Create Pick List screen, you come into Select Orders, and on here you can include certain things, sales orders, transfer orders, non-inventory. And we also have the non-inventory only with inventory items. So both of these options, it will say, bring through the non-inventory items only if you have inventory items also on the order. Well, in prior versions, keep in mind, for years and years and years, we were only looking at non-inventory items as being miscellaneous item type, as mentioned in our technical manual. So we were only looking at those different types, the miscellaneous item type. Well, there were also people who were using things like services, expenses. Those are other different types of non-inventory items that you can have. So what would happen is when we wouldn't have in the code to go ahead and look for all those other types besides miscellaneous item, in some instances when you were going through and creating pick lists, those services and expense type items could make it through onto other pick lists. So I want to point out that now we are going ahead and we are looking for everything non-inventory, whether it's miscellaneous item, as we had seen before, service, or expense. So, and an example of what you may have been seeing if you are on a really old version, keep in mind, let's say that I have, let me bring up a sales order that I know I've got. this specific order has three different types of items. One is a regular inventory item, one is a service, and one is a miscellaneous item. Well, what could have happened in the past when you would go through is if this specific order is for Warehouse Rialto. If I had gone to my Create Pick List screen, and let's say I did this for Warehouse Vernon, which is a completely different warehouse. Before, if I would have gone ahead and just said to go through and chose that specific warehouse, I had the non-inventory and only with inventory items checked, those two items, the service and the expense type items, would have made it through regardless because we weren't searching for those. So miscellaneous item would have been fine. If you only use miscellaneous items, you would have never seen this. But if you were ever using those service types or the actual expense types, your non-inventory items could make it through onto those other warehouses. And so basically it would go through and be able to see that. So now it is not going to go ahead and bring that one through. So that order was 12196, and notice we do not see that one trying to make it through now after these changes have been put into place as far as the filtering of those different non-inventory types. So really important if you've ever had any problems with non-inventory items in the past, all of that is resolved with the filtering now. Another big one that has caused some users issues in the past is on the client side of things in cancel picks. So let's say, for example, you go into DC Warehouse picking and cancel picks. In here, you know, most users would come in and choose a specific option to hit select and then cancel that specific pick list. Well, again, someone coming through here really fast, you know, may just say, okay, I thought I made my selection, hit select, choose everything, and voila, you've got all of your picks canceled. So we wanted to go ahead and stop a user from doing that. So now if I come in here, basically just leave all my filters open, hit select, it will force them to put some sort of selection criteria into this grid. So it will stop them from just allowing them to choose all and moving on to the next thing. Definitely save some time as far as, you know, if a user cancels all your pick lists, that could really cause a big headache. So this stops that from being able to happen. So that is another change, that we were forcing the user to make some sort of a selection. Another one that has had a change to it is on the Banyan side. I know Kirsten had talked about our Banyan integration. So definitely for those LTL shipments where you're rate shopping, where you're going ahead and you're getting quotes, you're booking the shipments, and so on. One of the things that has been added in our Banyan integration is in prior versions, we were only transmitting the actual dimensions for the truckload if it was a volume type shipment. That has now been changed to include the dimensions with all shipments. So everything that you see here, we keep track of dimensions at a pallet or a box level. That can be updated with our calculate volume button up here. That actually updates it as a truck total dimensions. And that will be transmitted when you are utilizing the Banyan Carrier Select on any of these service codes, so LTL, volume, and in prior versions it has only gone through with the volume. So I just wanted to point that out, that now will be transmitted with both LTL and volume. Those are the two most common ones used in there. Another area where we added quite a bit of functionality, as Kirsten had talked about earlier, was the 3PL. We're getting more and more users wanting to use the 3PL functionality and actually, you know, make it really simple to pass information back and forth as far as what are the orders, what needs to be picked over there, and then when they're coming back from the 3PL, exactly what was picked over there, how many boxes there were, and what are the tracking numbers. So a few different things have been added in that area. We've really taken a close look at what needs to be done there, and there's actually about, 3 different pieces that were added to the 3PL portion. Just to give you an idea, let's say, for example, when we're talking about 3PL, I'm going to come in here and just enter an order real quick. So it's going to be 12206. I'll go ahead and put in a specific customer. Let's say that I'm just going to actually change this. I'm going to do a FedEx ground instead. And I'm going to put a couple of items on here. Yep. Okay, and the second item. Okay, so now I have two items on this specific order. One of the things that we actually did for 3PL before I create this pick list is in the Setup WL options, we have a new 3PL tab. And one of the things that the users could not do before was it would just automatically pull, put pick list files in a specific directory or put package files in a specific directory. The user now has the capability to choose exactly where you want these files to be placed and where it's going to be picking them up from. We also added in this specific screen, before these last two versions, one of the things that we did not support was we did not support lot or serial tracking or BTO kits. All three of those are now supported as well. So if you're doing lots, tracking, serial tracking, or BTO kits, all of those are now supported through the 3PL. So I have that order, and let's say that I'm going to go ahead and create a pick list for that specific order. So in here, I'll come in, hit contains, 12206. What creates that file for the 3PL is when I come out here, I've got a new pick list number. I'm going to go ahead and generate shipment, because keep in mind with 3PLs, the 3PL is the one that's going to go ahead and do the picking, so we're just going to generate the shipment record. And again, that's only for the 3PL. As soon as that is done, I can look over here, go to my 3PL directory, pick list, and I can see the file that was actually created. And when I look at this, things that have been added are such things as you can see all the details for your order, but just some of the newer features that were added is one, choosing the directory that it goes in. Two would be additional fields that have been added in here. So, for example, things like the actual FOB is a new field that was not sent before. Also, things such as exactly when it is prepaid. It would just send that the order was prepaid, meaning that your location warehouse will be paying for it. Well, when you're sending that to the 3PL, you also need to send the account number that it's going to be charged to, even if it is prepaid. So all of that has been updated. So it was fields like FOB, the carrier information, whether or not ASN is required, and there was a few others. So every single field that was added is actually within those different notes. Also, another thing that was added is lot information. As I mentioned, lots and serial numbers are now available in here as well. So if this had any lots or that information would be shown right in here. So you'd be able to see the lot information that they need to go ahead and pull from, along with any quantities related to those lots. And then the other thing, as I mentioned, in the Setup WL options, as we had seen, was BTO kits. So BTO kits, you can determine, not only when you're sending it, do you want to send, since the 3PL doesn't really need to know the top level. They just need to know the actual components that they need to go pull. That is one of the options that was added into that Setup WL options to say go ahead and omit the top level from the BTO kit and only send the components. So it would be sending all of the different items here as well. So those are some of the things that were added to the picking side, everything from just making simple changes to the RF shipment to ensure the user isn't choosing all the cancel pick list, the non-inventory, the merge pick list, and then all of the 3PL changes as well as the Banyan change. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the PO and inventory side and manufacturing. So on the PO side, one of the changes that we did add into the system is basically when you would do PO receiving, and let's say that you had serialized products. With those serialized products, it would not check for duplicate serial numbers until it got to the batch. Well, one of the things that we wanted to prevent or stop from happening is so that you don't have to wait until you get to the batch. So right now, if I have a PO, so let's say that I've got a PO in my system that has a serialized product. If I come here and I go ahead and go into my PO receiving, and I bring up PO 2084, and I bring up my serialized product. So, okay, so I'm going to be receiving 100 of these. Let's say that, actually, I'll just put it into RCV. Let's say that I do my first serial number. Let's say I scan that in as a specific serialized product. If I try and do that exact same one into that RCV bin, it will tell me now serial number already used. So you have a lot of times where the user accidentally tries to scan something in twice. Like I mentioned before, it would allow you to scan it here, and it would stop it when it got to the actual batch and say, hey, you scanned 2 of them. Well, we want to stop it at this point so that the user figures out, okay, you've already scanned this one. Don't try and scan this one again, because then that may force them to try to scan or miss another one down the line, thinking that they had gotten all of them. So just a simple little change there, but it's something to ensure that the users are not trying to do duplicate serial numbers. Talking about inventory, there's been a few different changes to the inventory side of things. Some of these are just small, simple little changes. Others of these are some bigger changes especially with lots and serialized items. So first one is an RF cycle count, stocking to measure default option. What this does is, let's say, for example, you want to go ahead, let's say that you have multiple units of measure set up for an item, but the main one that you want to count with is each, let's say, hypothetically. Well, when you would go into and select your cycle count, you would have to choose the actual unit of measure unless you were scanning a UPC every single time for every single item. Well, one of the things that we actually added was the ability to go in and set that unit of measure to be the actual stocking measure as your default. So how you would trigger that is if you come into your setup RF options, and if I go into my setup RF options in the inventory under cycle count, there is a new option here that says stock unit of measure default. And if this is checked, then what happens is when I come out here to the handheld and I go to IM count, and let's say that I'm just going to choose any item on here. So instead of having to, since this item actually has multiple units of measure, I would have had to stop here and actually choose which one I'm going to be counting with, unless I had done the UPC scanning. In this case, it automatically defaulted to be each, since I'm normally counting in each. So again, just another little trick in the system to simplify the process if you do normally go ahead and count everything in your stock unit of measure. And you would just then go ahead and put in whatever the number is, and you could continue on with your count. Other things that have been added into the inventory side is what we call our stock movement multi-lot. It doesn't necessarily always just mean multi-lot. It could be multi-serial as well. So when you think of stock movement, you're basically taking one item, moving it from a certain bin to another bin, and inputting the quantity. Well, as you know, with lots and serials, that takes a little bit more time because you are adding that additional layer. So not only do you move the item in a certain quantity, but you have to say, I'm doing this lot, and that lot has 5. Now I need to do another lot, and that lot has 10. And the same thing with cereals. You're moving one at a time as far as the cereals. Well, we actually made 2 screens, and these are under the additional IM operations temporarily. We put them under multi-lot processing, but even though it says multi-lot, it also has multi-serial. So eventually this will be renamed to be both lot and serial. But in here, just so you can see what I'm talking about, basically we have a move stock multi-lot. So what this does is if I go in here and let's say that I want to go ahead and say that I'm going to move, this specific item. Where am I moving it from? Let's say I'm going to say that I'm taking it from here, and I'm going to put it here. And basically what's going to happen is when you would do a stock movement, you would enter the item, the from, the to, you'd choose the lot, and then you'd have to do everything over again, the item, the from, the to, and continue that cycle. What this will do is this will make it a lot simpler for you because if you have multiple lots that you're moving from one bin to another, you simply choose, okay, I'm going to move this lot first, and that has 82, and then it goes right back to lot, and I move this lot. So instead of having to choose item, bin, lot, quantity, you're just choosing those once, and you can move lot, quantity, lot, quantity, lot, quantity until it is completely done. Same thing with serials. You can keep scanning your serial numbers, and it will automatically default the one for you. So it's a lot easier to do that stock movement when you have these lots or serialized products. So that process has been extremely automated right with this process. Another one that has been automated further is also under in this section, transfer bin inter-warehouse. What does that mean? Basically what that means is if you're familiar with what a bin transfer is. So bin transfer is when you're moving every single product from one bin to another bin. So that's within one warehouse though. Let's say that you have multiple warehouses, even if they're just virtual warehouses, and you want to move everything out of that one bin without having to do an IM transfer out, because you would have to do it for every single serial or every single item. If you want to do everything from one bin, moving from, let's say, Warehouse Rialto to Warehouse Vernon, you now have that capability even with lots and serial tracked items. So what would basically happen there is, let's say with this, I come in, and before we do that, just so you can see what I'm talking about, if I come in and I'm going to look at, I'll look at my DC stock status, and I'm going to do quickly, let's say that I'm going to look at everything that is in a given bin here. So this bin has everything from lot tracked items to regular items to serialized products. So it has a combination of all three different types of products. Well, when I come over to my handheld and I go ahead and I'm going to say that I'm going to move everything out of this warehouse and this bin and move it over to a completely separate warehouse. So I'm going to say this is the bin I'm taking. It's going to go over here, and it's going to go into this bin and proceed. And what it does is basically it's going behind the scenes and doing all of those IM transfer outs for you. So it's moving every single product, it's moving every single lot, it's moving every single serial without you having to do every single one of those transactions manually. So it will go ahead and do all the moves for you regardless. And at the end, it does give you the message done to let you know that it did complete. And if I came back over here, not only would this one go ahead and update, but if you come here, that one was allocated. So in here, if I look at now my Vernon warehouse and go ahead and look at that specific bin, shelf 2, we can see all those different items. So again, the lot numbers, the serial numbers, and so on. So that is one quick way to move everything from one warehouse to another. If you're moving a whole bin, you can do that. And again, it also supports both lots and serialized items. So again, those were two screens or two additions to the product that we had never had before that would really automate certain processes, especially if you have lots or serials. A couple smaller things that I do want to just point out. On this screen, one of the fields that was added, so this is the DC stock status screen. Item description, that is a new column. That was never there before. We only had item ID and it went straight to status, unit of measure, and so on. That was added, especially if you have item IDs that the user may not recognize or they may not know what they're looking at. The item description will tell them any more details about the specific product. Another feature that was added, I know especially for a lot of you that have multiple warehouses, if you are going through and, let's say you're a user signed in, you're not sure what warehouse you're in because you do use multiple warehouses, on here, any screen that you're in, so let's say, I was doing purchasing and I wasn't sure what I was in, I can simply hit escape. Notice right here, next to change warehouse, it does have Rialto and brackets. That is telling me exactly what warehouse I'm currently logged into. So you can access that from any screen. So when you hit that escape function, you'll be able to see the warehouse that you are logged into. So really simple, but it will really help out for those users that are using multiple warehouses and processing. One other thing that I do want to point out on the inventory side is bin labels. We did add a function to be able to print out. I don't know, for those of you that have gone through and tried to print bin labels from the handheld, it always came out, unless you were good with Crystal and you went in and actually modified the Crystal report, it would come out in the 8.5 by 11 size. It would just come up with a sheet of paper. We did go ahead and add a new label format that is in a 4 by 6 format. And on there, it can have just the bin label format, or we also do have one that will do like a lot breakout as well. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and just to show you quickly where this is at. So on the Setup RF options, if I go to IM, bin label, now there are two new additions here. There was only bin label before, but now we've also got bin label 4 by 6, bin lot label 4 by 6. So if you do a lot of lot number items, you can choose that one as well. So I'm going to choose the bin label 4 by 6 just to give you an idea of what is available. And so if I come here and go over to my handheld, let's close out some of these real quick. So this would be found in your inventory operations, and that additional IM operations, bin labels, and when I choose a specific bin, let's say that I had, this specific bin, it will go ahead and bring that up. Let's go ahead and just say, we'll just put this on my C. Let's put it on my desktop for now. And bring that through. And it just gives me a quick 4 by 6 label with the bin, the items, the quantities. So some additional things were added to this label, additional pieces of information, but also it is more in a format for a specific bin. So you can definitely see exactly what's in the bin in these new layouts. And with the other one, as I mentioned, if lot was chosen, then any of these items were lots, it would also show you any of the lot breakout or lot detail. One of the other things that I do want to point out before I start talking about some of the fixes is in manufacturing, there was one feature added there, and that is what we call our move materials tolerance. With move materials tolerance, for those of you that do manufacturing, you probably know that what we've had in the system before was actually a tolerance for the finished good. So when you would look at things like your RF options and you looked at labor entry, there was this option in here to go ahead and do a work order tolerance percentage. So for those of you that may have never seen this, what this does for you is when you go ahead and you create a work order, if the work order is for 10 and you put in a tolerance percentage, it's going to ensure that the user doesn't try and make 1,000 instead of 10, or they try to make 100, depending upon whatever you have your tolerance at. It will go ahead and give them a warning or an error saying, you've exceeded the tolerance, go ahead and fix the quantity. Same concept. We always had that on the labor entry and the finished good producing, but we never had that for moved materials. So when you think of backflushing, you got users going out to the warehouse, they're moving product up to the work center, but they could go ahead and move more quantity than needed. So if you needed 100 and let's say they accidentally grabbed 150 or grabbed 200, we also have added the same type of concept there. So move materials tolerance. So when you're going through, instead of having to then go back and move product back to stock because someone moved too much, you can go ahead and actually say don't allow them to move more than 10%, and if you want to enable that or not. So that is now a feature. And kind of what it would look like is when you come out here and you go to your manufacturing, and let's say that I'm going to go to my move materials and pick up a specific work order. Let's say, I'll just go ahead and grab one. And let's say that this only needed one, so I'm going to say where I'm taking it from. And let's say that I tried to go ahead and put in 10. It will come up and tell them basically it's exceeded for the allowed tolerance. So it is not going to allow the user to move. It makes them go back and fix the specific quantity that they need to move because that tolerance has been met. So again, now we've seen everything that we've hit, kind of some of the biggest features on the sales order, pick, pack, ship, the inventory, the PO, the manufacturing. I do want to mention a couple things here. As I was talking about at the beginning, we have added quite a few fixes in each of these. So just thinking of the 47, I know that there were several minor changes there that were made to clean up screens, removing Pro number from the setup carrier screen that was not needed in there. Warehouse Package Manager, the quick search is now defaulting to contains instead of is equal to, as well as a couple others. So make sure that you do look at that section on several minor changes. There were also 6 fixes in 47. That was related to everything from PO receiving bin lists, selection, PO receiving wildcard, cash receipts, fraud review. I know there was some of those in there as well as others. As I mentioned earlier, version 47 has been finalized, and the full release notes are out on the FTP site. Then also on the 48, there was also several minor changes made to that specific version in regards to the RF screens. Heading menus, material issues, IM issue, IM adjustment, just some things to really improve those screens and make them, better functioning. So please review the release notes coming out this week for the exact details on that. And there, in 48, there were also 9 fixes, and some of those were related to things for like PO received, PO line, multiple containers. That was definitely fixed in there. Pick list excluding holds, pick list through PL address lines, as well as others. And as I mentioned with the 48, this will be the last version for the 7.8 version, but we will continue that on to 49 for the 7.9, 8.0, and 8.2. And then also I know with the release notes, as I mentioned, that will be up there as well for all of the users. All of you will be able to access that later this week. We're finalizing a couple pieces on the documentation, but that will be up there for the 48. Just a couple things that I do want to point out at the end before we open it up for questions. I know usually I go over some tips and tricks, but there was just so many features in the 47 and 48 that I wanted to be able to show you. But one note that I do want to mention is just some cleanup. Make sure, I know year-end cleanup, we're all the way in March, but just some things to think about as far as things that you would normally do at end of month or year-end. If you're using the inventory calendar and you're noticing anything strange with sales orders not giving you a correct ship date, this would only be if you're using the DC Warehouse inventory calendar. Make sure that you do go in there each year, just like you do with the inventory side of things, with the inventory calendar, going in and updating that. Make sure that you do come in here and update your periods for the specific year. So, for example, like this one, 2023, I haven't set that up on my system yet. So I could come in and add that and make sure all of my ship days are set up. So I know quite a few of you actually do use the inventory calendar in DC Warehouse for your shipping. Make sure that you are setting that up at the end of the year. Other things to really mention, package maintenance and purging package data. If you're seeing any slowdowns, I know Kirsten had mentioned our good resource for SQL and everything, but just some simple cleanup you could be going in there and doing as well. Those can all be found under the utilities section in here. So package maintenance, if you want to go ahead and clean up any old shipments that are stuck in there, if you want to show unassigned empty packages, to clean those out of the package manager. The package maintenance is a good tool for that. And the other one would also be the purge package data. I know a few of you have just been on here for so many years that you have, just many, many packages, all of that information in there. This is definitely the tool that you can utilize to go in and actually clean up some of those old packages from 5 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever it may be, that you don't need to keep track of anymore. So just wanted to point those out, that it's really a good time of the year to be going through and doing that. So I'll go ahead and open it up now if anyone has any specific questions.
Well, going once, going twice. So we want to once again thank you all for your time today. We want to thank you for your business. If you have any questions after this, please just reach out to us. We're here to help you. I will see if this WebEx even worked, this recording, and if it did, I will circulate that out to you. I just ask that no one puts it out anywhere where it could easily be accessed by the public. I want to thank you, Julie, for putting together such a beautiful presentation, and have a good afternoon, everyone. Take care.